From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Hannah Mordeau, and this is your News 8 Daily for Wednesday, October 1st. It is not business as usual at the U.S. Capitol or anywhere else in the federal government this morning. A government shutdown kicked in at midnight after Congress failed to agree on a spending plan. In this podcast, we will look at how many people this affects immediately and which areas will now run on thin staff, if at all. First, though, the forecast. It is mostly sunny outside, feeling a little cooler this morning than we've been at. We did dip into the 50s in Indianapolis. We are going to warm up, though, as the day goes on to the low to mid 80s. So it may be October, but it's feeling like midsummer still. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are staying home today, and those that are working do not know when they will get a paycheck. A partial government shutdown kicked in 1 minute after midnight. Amy Kiley reports on the congressional standoff that led to it and what's closing or slowing because of it.
The federal government is now shut down. It's out of money because Congress can't agree on a funding plan. The main sticking point is health care. Democrats want to reverse Medicaid cuts and stop enhanced Obamacare subsidies from expiring.
We need to stop these premiums from going up dramatically.
They're arguing a December policy debate for a September funding issue.
The Congressional Budget Office estimates about 750,000 federal workers face furloughs. It says they'd otherwise make $400 million a day. Essential employees must work without pay.
Social Security checks will come in. National Weather Service, they'll still be producing forecasts. We're talking about the Department of Veterans Affairs. Those will still be open. Medicare will still be going on, and unemployment insurance will, in fact, still be reaching the people who, of course, need it most.
The State Department might be slow to issue passports. The military remains in place, but just under half of civilian defense employees are furloughed. National parks have skeleton crews. The FDA says food inspections are affected. As for transportation, about 3/4 of FAA staff are working without pay, a central issue in the last shutdown.
10 controllers actually called out sick, and it led to massive delays, and said, you know what, we need to end this shutdown.
I'm Amy Kiley for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
A partisan split on spending is clear in posts from Indiana's congressional delegation. Democrat Andre Carson is sharing a photo of his party peers in the House chamber. He shared it on X. You can see it there. It shows that they were there while Republicans were absent. Carson's caption, "Government funding expires at midnight. Republicans didn't even show up to work." Republican Jefferson Shreve writes on X, "House Republicans have done our jobs to pass legislation and keep government open. Hoosiers should not have to pay the price because Democrats insist on playing politics." Shreve also says he will donate his congressional salary during the shutdown to Johnson County's Boys and Girls Club. Okay, sports now. A stunningly successful playoff run ends first in hope, then in heartbreak for the Indiana Fever. The storyline may be painfully similar for local basketball fans. Playing the Aces in Las Vegas late last night, the Fever suffered a huge blow when severe leg cramps knocked out leading scorer Kelsey Mitchell, knocked her out of the game. The rest of the squad rallied, though, taking the Aces to overtime. But the higher seed proved too much, winning 107-98. Fever's run as overachieving underdogs mirrors in many ways the gut-wrenching end to the Pacers' unlikely playoff run, especially the mid-game injury to the team's top player. Andrew Chernoff was live in Las Vegas this morning. He was at the game last night. He's up very early after a late night. He talked to the coach and players and walked Daybreak's Scott Sander through their reactions.
You know, it's interesting, Scott, because you mentioned the similarities. When Kelsey Mitchell went down last night, it genuinely, in that building, you sort of had flashbacks to what happened to Tyrese Halliburton. Now, Stephanie White, the head coach of the Fever, said afterwards that Kelsey Mitchell had a lot of lower body cramping, and actually she was in a local hospital last night after the game just receiving fluids. So hopefully we'll have more updates on Kelsey coming up today. But yeah, what an incredible performance by this Fever team last night, considering, again, last night, in a sense, a microcosm of their entire season, dealing with injuries but still finding ways to never give up and just keep fighting. And that's exactly what happened last night. At one point, down by 8 heading into the fourth quarter, coming back, though, on the road against the Aces and forcing overtime while being shorthanded. That pretty much sums up this Fever team never give up mentality. Stephanie White, I asked her a question afterwards. She even said this story needs to be told with this team for years to come. And I asked her, what's the message that you want people to hear the story of the 2025 Fever, to know about this group? And her reaction, I think it says a lot.
There's no circumstance that we went through on or off the floor, because we had some off the floor stuff too, that they blinked, that they held their heads down, that they didn't just stand tall and face head on. They continued to pour into one another. They continued to pour into us as coaches. They continued to allow us to push them on days and moments when they could have very easily just given up. They loved on us. They loved on one another. And it makes it really special when it sucks that it's over.
This season has been all about figuring it out. No matter what happens, what comes around the corner, figuring it out, the entire staff. I mean, seriously, they just did a tremendous job tonight. When Kelsey goes down, no surprise, but I think it also goes to show our entire motto has been next woman up and be ready, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I feel like that's exactly what happened tonight, and everyone was just ready when their name was called.
Lexi Hull, even, we talked to her after the game and asked her about just this team, and she said it's sad. It's sad that this is ending, but you know what? Next year going forward, it's going to be fun, hopefully, to see what this team will be able to do going forward. You can tell just how close everyone is on this team, and what a memorable run that this Fever group had here, just falling one game short of the WNBA Finals. And, you know, guys, the motto for the team on social media this year was #NowYouKnow. I think it's fair to say the entire country knows what this Indiana Fever franchise is all about, and watch out for the Fever next year for sure.
A divide is developing off-court in the WNBA, with Fever players at the heart of it. Minnesota Lynx star Nafisa Collier is blasting league leadership, calling Commissioner Kathy Engelbert negligent. Collier contends referees keep losing control of the games, leading to injuries. She says Engelbert is doing nothing to prevent it. Collier also says she talked to Engelbert earlier in the season about pay for stars like Caitlin Clark.
I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything.
Clark has not commented on the controversy, but her teammate and friend Lexi Hull has, just before last night's game.
I think, our league is at a spot that it hasn't been in the past 10 years. Like, we're growing exponentially, and we need change to mirror that. And I think where the players see the league going is different than where leadership sees the league going, and somehow we need to see that align.
The commissioner responded later through a league statement saying she is disheartened by how Nafisa characterized our conversations and league leadership, but even when our perspectives differ, my commitment to the players and to this work will not waver. New on Daybreak, one man is wounded in an early morning shooting in Indianapolis. Police say it happened at 1:15 at 20th and Beaux-Arts on the east side of the city. Officers say they found the wounded man at the intersection. They say he is stable. There's no word on a possible suspect or what led to the gunfire, but police at the scene tell us there is no wider threat to the public. OneAmerica says its downtown employees will keep working at home for the rest of the week. The decision to stay remote follows the threat news that we broke to you on Wish TV yesterday. Company is giving a few more details about the situation, saying a vague but concerning threat came in from someone who does not work there. The OneAmerica building has many other tenants. Company says some of them have also switched to remote work, but the building will stay open. Statement from OneAmerica says, in this situation and in this environment, the smart decision is to prioritize our associates' safety above all else. IPD has been contacted, and we continue to work with them throughout this process. U.S. News Now Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says he wants to root out policies in the military that he refers to as woke. In a speech to the military's top leaders at a base in Virginia yesterday, Hegseth vowed to end diversity efforts. He also says that everyone in combat jobs will have to meet the highest male standard, and if any officer does not agree with his views, they should resign.
For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts.
President Trump later told military leaders that he wanted to use American cities as training grounds for military troops. Trump has faced criticism and at least one court order for sending National Guard and active duty troops to cities in what he calls an effort to crack down on crime. Let's go to Jane King now with your business headlines, and she does start with the potential economic impact of the government shutdown.
The markets in the past have ignored, for the most part, government shutdowns, or we bounce back really quickly. But that could change if this goes on for some time. Now, the first obvious thing that investors is going to lack is economic data. Now, investors use this to make bets about the direction of the economy. We're supposed to get a monthly jobs report Friday, but that looks highly uncertain at this point. The shutdown could also result in permanent job losses in the hundreds of thousands and the gutting of some programs. And this morning we are looking lower. So I'll get to more on that in just a second. Well, President Trump says the White House has made a deal with Harvard. The Ivy League school will pay $500 million to help fund and operate trade schools around the U.S. Now, Trump says these schools will teach AI, engines, things like that. And this, according to the president, will relieve Harvard of all the other potential punishment for anti-Semitism on campus. Harvard had no comment. Well, leading AI companies are ramping up the pace of data center development to try to meet surging demand. However, in the manufacturing, construction, and electrical trades, there's a shortage of skilled labor, and that presents a major challenge. Now, CNBC reports that retirements, immigration policies, deportations are shrinking the labor pool in those areas, and that's creating the risk that data centers become stranded assets, billion-dollar buildings that cannot go online. Well, more than 1.7 million paid subscribers of Disney streaming apps, including Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN, canceled their memberships over 6 days following ABC's suspension of late-night host Jimmy Kimmel. The cancellations were recorded between September 17th and the 23rd. This is according to the Handbasket newsletter, and they stem from customers being upset at how Disney handled Kimmel's suspension. Okay, the Dow closed at a record high yesterday. We kind of, at least yesterday, shrugged off the potential of a government shutdown, which of course happened at midnight. Now, September is usually the worst month of the year for stocks, but we did have a higher September this year. However, this morning the Dow's pointing down 200 just as investors assess what this shutdown could mean for the economy. Live from the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Jane King. Back to you.
New ruling says the Trump administration violated the First Amendment by deporting people for vocally supporting Palestinians. A U.S. district judge in Boston found in favor of several university associations that sued, arguing that non-citizens have the right to free speech and that the Secretary of State and other federal officials deliberately targeted international college students who criticized Israel's military action in Gaza. In his ruling, Judge William Young writes that the case squarely presents the issue whether non-citizens lawfully present here in the United States actually have the same free speech rights as the rest of us. The court answers this constitutional question unequivocally: yes, they do. Here in Indianapolis, at least one city leader wants a facelift for one of the major corridors in the city. News 8's Kat Sandoval talked to the city county councilor, Michael Paul Hart, who is pushing for an overhaul along East Washington Street.
Hart tells me he's working with a firm called Genovis. It's like sort of a matchmaker. They match up companies with prime locations. He thinks that East Washington Street is ready for that.
The vision is to revitalize Washington Street between Post Road and Carroll Road. There are several prime locations that are crumbling. Empty parking lots at Washington Square Mall with little to no foot traffic.
There were people here all the time. Big weekend crowds. There was just a lot of activity going on.
Stacy Rutherford used to work here in the mid-'70s. The once booming mall is no more, but Stacy says she's excited about new businesses possibly coming in.
Well, they certainly need it, especially over here on the east side. Yeah, the east side is not what it used to be at all.
The Target next door brings some people in, but the mall area is pretty much empty. And so is this former LA Fitness. No new tenants moved in, so it's an empty lot, except for one lonesome old couch.
it's not getting the attention that it needs. And that's why it's so important that we can reinvest in our Main Street and then make sure that we've got the most vibrant street in Indianapolis.
Hart says Washington Street is the gateway to downtown. He says that a lack of attention and the perception that the East Side is dangerous is what stops businesses from investing. Hart goes on to say that a $300,000 city grant for the planning and assessment for the area is a start. While there are businesses that do well in the area, he says there's room for growth.
Where we bring people and business, and that business being, commercial shops and restaurants and things of that nature, but it could be even sports complexes. I mean, the limits are the sky at this point.
Hart says there isn't a specific business that's interested in investing just yet, but he is opening up that conversation. I'm Kat Sandoval for Wish TV, wishtv.com.
One of the most important agencies in Indiana's fight against hunger is sounding an alarm about a new move from the federal government. The Department of Agriculture is canceling its hunger report. Food banks like Gleaners use this report to make decisions that affect food pantries across the state. News 8's Hernan Gutierrez talked to the head of Gleaners and first explains the importance of the survey.
So it's an annual look into food insecurity across the country, and organizations like Gleaners use it to figure out how and where to concentrate its resources. For the last 30 years, the U.S. Department of Agriculture published the Hunger Report. It's also known as the Household Food Security Report. The decision to cancel the study comes after the passage of this year's federal budget reconciliation. The CEO of Gleaners tells me that that data is considered to be the gold standard and drives a lot of decisions around hunger.
I think it's almost impossible to replicate.
Every year, organizations like Gleaners in central Indiana take the information from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Hunger Report to help them decide how to concentrate their efforts. CEO Fred Glass says nonprofits like his rely on that data.
Without it in place, we're really flying blind in terms of public policy relating to hunger.
According to data from last year's Hunger Report, 1 in 7 Hoosiers are considered food insecure.
And so there's people in your church, PTA, Little League, 4-H club that are hungry and you don't know it because it's so pervasive.
The cancellation of the annual study comes as the Trump administration also made cuts to federal nutrition programs. In the announcement, the USDA cited cost and claimed the study was politicized, adding that it failed to present anything more than subjective liberal fodder. Trends in the prevalence of food insecurity have remained virtually unchanged. Glass disagrees. He says Gleaners has seen a rise in need following the COVID-19 pandemic that hasn't tapered off.
It's like a hockey stick on a chart, and because of some of these recent policies implemented by the federal government, we think that need will continue to go up.
Without the data, Glass worries food banks won't know where they're needed the most. He adds there will be other consequences.
We'll have less ability to assess the impact of federal programs. We'll have less data to provide to third-party grantors in the philanthropic sector.
This year's USDA Hunger Study will still be published. It's expected by the end of the month. I'm Hernan Gutierrez for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
You can meet Pacers players this weekend at the Fan Jam. It's at 11 in the morning on Sunday at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and it's free. Organizers say the rookies will battle it out in karaoke. You can take pictures with the players, shoot free throws on the court for a good cause. Plus, there's a Pacers scrimmage. Organizers say the first 5,000 fans will get a free shirt and a voucher for some free food. A bear appropriately named Chunk is the winner of Fat Bear Week. Contest organizers estimate Chunk weighs 1,200 pounds. Competition celebrates the bears at the Katmai National Park in Alaska as they bulk up ahead of hibernation. Chunk is winning for the first time. He finished in second place for the past 3 years. Contest website shows that Chunk beat out Bear 856 in the final bracket with more than 96,000 votes. You go to wishtv.com to see a picture of Chunk. This has been your News 8 Daily from Wish TV. I'm Hannah Mordeau. Watch us on Wish TV and wishtv.com.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go, connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.